Welcome to Holland and Hobbs. You got a new episode, and today we are joined with Will Boyd, who is running for governor of Alabama. So just to start it out, if someone was to ask who was Will Boyd, who are you?
I'm a husband, a father, a servant leader. I try to serve everybody I can. I'm running for governor of Alabama because I want everybody to have a fair shot. That's who I am.
No, for the people that know, what's your background growing up in Alabama?
Yes, well, I was actually born in Florence, South Carolina, but I have a Florence to Florence connection. I spent a lot of time in Florence, Alabama. I actually traveled the whole state quite a bit. Spent a lot of time in Hoover, Alabama. We have my wife and I one son who's about to graduate from an institution in Alabama in a few weeks, a couple. We also have a daughter who's in her second year of nursing school, or at
Wow.
least she's in her first year of nursing school, second year at another great institution of Alabama. I'm trying to keep them out of harm's way here.
I know, really, you have to.
This
Yes.
isn't an Auburn grad right here we got.
Well, I love
Hey,
Auburn. As a matter of fact, you would be happy to know that my dad was the principal of my school, but the assistant principal, his name is Rainey Johnson. I can call his name. He had a dog named Aubie, and he took me while in high school to Auburn. So I was supposed to do Auburn engineering, but I ended up doing University of South Carolina engineering. But
okay.
I love Auburn University.
Well, you know what? College is hard. And so anytime that somebody can figure out a way to get there and get through it, it doesn't really matter to me where it is. Now, I mean, I
Understood.
do wish bad for all sports concerning the University of Alabama, obviously. But past that, I just think anytime you can make it to college, it's a good thing.
It is. It is. I love the campus. It's beautiful. I've
Hmm.
even been interviewed on Tiger TV, and
Okay.
yeah, I've gone quite a few times to sit with students there. So I'm
Hmm.
very excited about going back. As a matter of fact, I have a person who's finishing a master's degree about to graduate who was on our team.
Okay.
She's finishing up her master's at Auburn right now. So
Very
we're
cool. It is a
very
beautiful
connected to
campus.
Auburn.
I'm a tree. I always joke I'm a hippie tree hugger. So, I just fit right in there with the oaks.
Oh my.
I
So
All
you're an
right.
environmentalist as well.
don't know about that, but
Oh my
I
goodness.
try.
All
I
right. So
hear you.
what led you to consider running for governor?
It's no secret, in public service all of my life. Actually, while I was in college, I was a page to a South Carolina state representative. After graduation, I spent a number of years serving in different capacities in and outside the United States, particularly in engineering management roles and other service positions, serving on a hospital board, serving as the pastor to a 166-year-old church, serving as the bishop to churches worldwide, serving on a healthcare board authority. I've done a lot in the service, a way of
Mhm.
community service, but I've also been the nominee for United States Congress. I was a nominee for U.S. Rep for the 5th Congressional District in 2016. So that means I traveled all over Lauderdale, Limestone, Madison, and Jackson counties and received the support to move forward as the nominee. In 2018, Walt Maddox and I traveled the state. Uh, we actually did very well. I think we did well considering the fact that a Democrat hasn't won a statewide election in many years. I trail behind him by a few points, spent a whole lot less money, but I was the nominee for lieutenant governor in 2018. And in 2022, I was the nominee for United States Senate, becoming the first African American male in the state to have a party nomination. And I won every county in the state of Alabama at that time. So
Wow.
winning the nomination in a primary is something that I've been able to do in every regular race that I've been a part of. I thought that I was sitting another race out, and people came to me over a year ago and said, please run. And I said over and over and over, no, 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 no. If this person's running, I don't care to run. If that person's running, I'm just going to sit it out. And after a number of calls, I finally said, I'll do it. And of course, now you see the field has about 6 people in it. So, but I believe we're doing very well. I'm traveling about 1,500 miles a week. Already today, I've gone to Montgomery and
Wow.
Came back just in time to sit in front of the camera and talk to you two wonderful people.
So
And
you've
so
been around the political scene, so you're not a stranger of Alabama politics.
no, 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 sir. As a matter of fact, I was the chair of the Lauderdale County Democratic Executive Committee. I was elected twice. I was elected twice to serve on a state Democratic Executive Committee board. So yes, I've been in politics, deeply immersed in it, as some say. I'm no stranger to it. Now, I hate the term politician, to be honest with you. So I can't tell you how low I felt when years ago my kids actually went out and tried to Google their father and it just had under my name politician and I'm like boo, boo, boo.
Yeah, that is a shot to the heart for sure.
I don't want to be a politician.
Does it feel a lot of times, I mean, with all that experience, like it's just so discouraging and you're just spinning your wheels and like you're like, what am I doing this for? I mean,
You
these people
know,
don't want progressivism. They don't want change. They just, because that's how it feels to live here a lot
right,
of
right,
times.
right, right, right. Yeah, and for the record, you all have me laughing so hard I'm crying. So let me clear the tears away so it doesn't look like I'm answering this question crying.
Hey,
But
everybody's got something that gets them emotional.
that's right. That's right. No, I'm excited about where we're going to go. And to your point, when you look at the fact that we win, aside from a special election or two, we win the primary election and people are excited, and then we get to the general election and people don't turn out, or you feel like it's a red state when it's really more of a blue state. It can be discouraging to some people. But I get out of the bed every day because there are certain cities in our state that have black water running through the pipes. We have over 25,000 people experiencing some type of sewer or septic crisis. We have environmental challenges in our state that are affecting us, dealing
Hmm.
with erosion, dealing with wastewater treatment, dealing with air quality. We have people who are fighting to survive. I'm chatting with one person, I hate to say right now, but as we're coming on the air, so to speak, who is in a working poor county where
Hmm.
they only have in the area he's in four ambulances and two of them don't work. And so I can go on and on and on. We have counties where there's no hospital. People drive an hour to get to a hospital and an hour if an ambulance is available. So when I see all the issues we're dealing with in 2026, I keep fighting. So this
Right.
is so again everybody can have a shot. It's not about me trying to just say I want to win an election. I don't get discouraged. I don't get frustrated by those issues. I get more frustrated by the fact that people who have the ability to vote sit at home. That bothers me. People who can make a difference say, well, my vote doesn't count, and then they yell at the television or their iPad or their tablet all day long when they see somebody who doesn't agree with them on the opposite side of the political spectrum. I
Right.
say if you really believe in the process, get out, cast your vote. People died for it. People bled for it. Don't just throw your vote to waste. Throw it
Yeah,
away.
I agree with that.
So I would say, as you're talking, like this is definitely not a scripted interview. We don't come with questions already ready, like drill down. So as you're talking, my brain is going. I'm already formulating a bunch of thoughts as you're talking.
Hmm.
Yes, sir.
And my first one is at your beginning, and you win the primaries and people get excited. Do you put that more on the state or maybe the Alabama Democrat Party? Because I've always felt like the Democrat Party of Alabama, I felt like it's been weak.
For
Like I
sure.
feel like you look at states like next door, like Georgia. I feel like they do a lot more to push their candidates, and
Right.
I feel like here in Alabama, it's more disruption within the party
Like,
itself.
why can't we work our way up to being considered a swing state? I mean, I know we don't have an Atlanta,
Hmm.
but between, I feel like we've got several big cities that maybe together get
Huntsville,
close to
Birmingham,
Oh
Montgomery,
yeah. Oh
Mobile,
yeah.
all of those swing those blue dots, but we collectively they don't swing enough.
We don't. But we have a team member who actually put out these, I hate to say dots, but blue dots, as you well know, red dots to show where people are that vote. And you would be surprised. We call it a red state again, but by concentration, to your point, you'll see near certain areas, particularly about five cities or metropolitan areas, there is a high concentration of blue. But whenever you light the map up based on a county, of course, it may become red. So if you look at where the people are and the people that have the potential to vote, and you consider the fact that our past or immediate past Secretary of State, I could argue, actually said that this is really a blue state, I think you'd be surprised when you see what turnout could do for us. So, answer your question about the party. Let's step outside of Alabama for a second. When you're in other states, let's just go north for a minute. Whenever you file to run and you meet the qualifications, whether it's paying a fee, whether it's getting thousands upon thousands of signatures, in many places you are assigned a treasurer to help you with your campaign. There is money at the statewide level available to help you navigate around the state and campaign. But in Alabama, it's a little bit different. It's all on the candidates to raise the money. And when the state party raises the money, that money can't be divided out to the candidates until after the primary, according to their thought process. So that makes it challenging. You almost have to come into these races having money. And
Right.
I think that's the total opposite of the way the framers of the Constitution or the
1,000%.
they would not have wanted it that way. They were farmers and they may have been lawyers and physicians, but I'm sure
Hmm.
they were common, ordinary people who came together at the table. And that's where we should be. Now we have Citizens United. We have people writing checks to candidates that they are interested in. And it becomes a point where it's all about who can raise the most money. Well, a lot of times the people who raise the most money or the people who have the most money are out of touch with the common people.
Right.
You ask a person how much is a gallon of milk, how much is a gallon of gas, they couldn't even come in the ballpark because they don't know. They've not walked through a Walmart with only a $20 bill and tried to figure out, do I buy beans or do I buy a pound or two of
What can I get
hamburger
with the
meat?
most protein to go the
Thank
first?
you.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And that's not counting if you're a mother or father and you have five kids who each can consume a pound of hamburger meat and get to buy five boxes of hamburger helper. I'm not exaggerating. There's some people just struggling out there. And then when you talk
Yeah.
about some people having over a 45-minute commute to work, some
Right.
people have to pay for health care out of their pocket. Child care is now out of reach for many people. It is tough to live in Alabama. So that's why I keep saying I get up every day. 900,000 people in poverty, and by some estimates, a million people on Medicare. Over, I say 282,696 people need Medicaid to be expanded so they can have health care. I mean, the list goes on and on. The average
Right.
salary, combining the highs and the lows of Alabama, may be 60,000 for a household income. And so when you think about that for just a minute, think about the fact there's no minimum wage in Alabama. There is not one. There's only a federal minimum wage, but
Right.
not a state minimum wage. That makes you stop and say, wait a minute, what happened here? Now I know a senator pushed through legislation or a bill this term or last legislative session, but we're not doing things right. And that's why I
Mm-mm.
fight for an expansion of the economy, affordable health care, and stabilized communities.
So I will say I definitely agree with you that it's more blue in Bama than what people think because we are supposed to have two blue districts for the House, but we're now getting them gerrymandering.
Oh
Well,
my.
while we don't have that extra blue section because the map still can't get approved because we still are a gerrymander state.
Hmm.
So it definitely is more blue in Bama than I think what people perceive it as being.
Right.
I will say, being just honest, because that's what I am, 100%. I wrote you off. I'll tell you why I wrote you off. Me and my thinking, I'm like, this is Alabama. It's already going to be difficult enough to get a Dem on the ballot to get them into that governor seat. It's been over
Mhm.
20 years since a Democrat has won in Alabama. And that's already difficult enough. Me looking at you, I already know your challenge. You got the Dem, you a chocolate brother.
Hasn't happened in 207 years.
You know what I'm saying? You like me. I mean, I'm a black man, but my thing is like, if I'm making a safe bet, I might go with a more conservative looking candidate that's on the dim ticket to maybe
Mhm.
guarantee, maybe get a little more push into maybe getting that, that governorship won for a Democrat. How would you, I guess, say someone to someone who has that frame of thought? Like, okay,
Mhm.
we already hard enough being a Democrat in Alabama, and then we add a black Democrat.
Yeah, he said he was going to say that, and I was like, well, I'm not saying that. That's insane. Like, you should go right for it.
You look at my Facebook page, you look at my Twitter feed, you look at anything. I have X, Instagram, even what I do on a daily basis with social media or I'm out in the streets. I
Mhm.
can't go into a Walmart without stopping to talk to people. I tried to run into a Publix before jumping on with you all tonight and just trying to pick up bananas and strawberries and one other item. I was stopped and somebody said, "Hey, I donated to you," and we took a picture together right in the parking lot, and I'm running. So yes, I can see how if you're thinking about Alabama being where it is challenging. If you think about my previous races and look at perhaps money or look at race or look at those things you mentioned earlier, yeah, you could write a candidate like me off. But this is a unique time. Right now, we have a lot of African Americans who feel like some other candidates have left them behind. They gave them a chance and nothing changed while they were in office or while they were campaigning. When you look at me, though, you see a track record. You see someone who is showing up, someone who is presenting plans. I'm presenting not only a timeline, but a return on the investment. I'm showing up to people's meetings when I'm not speaking. I'm popping into events asking, what can we do to make your area better? When I present the solutions and even have executive orders in my portfolio, people say, wait a minute, why haven't I heard about you? What, wait a minute. Today I went to a prison oversight committee meeting. I was the only candidate there, not just only candidate in a gubernatorial race, only candidate there, period, as far as I know. So people write off things like the Alabama Department of Corrections being overhauled. I've spent the last year explaining how I'm going to overhaul it from day one to 365. People say in Alabama, with it being as conservative it is, we're not going to ever see the legalization of marijuana, or we're not going to see where a hemp ban is going to be overturned. I walked in having never chewed a gummy or smoked anything that relates to hemp. I actually said, hey, I see there's a hemp ban, HB 445, but it was unfair to a million business owners, or I mean, 1,000 business owners, and $1 million worth of revenue was taken out. When I explained a solution involving injunctions and how Texas, Indiana, and New York did it and came out of it in a good way, white, black, young, old, everybody started coming my way and it opened the door. So I went from being a nobody, a zero, to being a hero to some of these people in a year's time. Not to mention that squeeze in, I'm just going to say one race. You had a New York mayoral race where a man is everywhere talking to everybody. And then they looked at Alabama. We have one too. We have a they I can't say Boyd Army, but they said that he's out there too, everywhere doing the same thing. So I'm seeing where
It's
people
so
are very
cool too.
excited.
I mean, what a novel idea of a politician getting in there with the people that elected him and actually like making sure stuff's getting done. It's like,
That's
yeah, I
it.
mean,
That's it. That's it. So to answer your question,
right.
and I'm going to be truthful since if you all don't mind calling me Will, and we're just kicking back, having a good time, like we're in the around the kitchen table. We battle almost on a daily basis the idea of me being a certain, I'll just say a black man.
Right.
People say, you can't win in your skin. And the tricky part is my team, I tell them, don't dwell on that at all. If people look at me, they know I'm a black man. They know I'm African American, whatever term you want to use. They know that. You don't have to push that. But they are trying to fight every day people with racist mentalities. And then the
Mhm.
minute they push back and say anything about me, people say, well, now you're playing the race card. Or if somebody pushes back, they say, oh, I think you're being racist. And these are white women who are actually fighting. So it's unbelievable how siloed we are in Alabama. But I think I'm offering a unique perspective. I'm saying, hey, look, if you're women, you want to work with me because I'm fighting to make sure we move us from 77 cents a dollar to your male counterpart to getting you equal pay. If you're a member of the LGBTQIA plus community, I'm saying, hey, I don't I don't understand everything like you do from different perspectives. But look, it should be a hope state and not a hate state.
That's
And
right.
so when I see cultural wars in the legislature, I'm saying, hey, shouldn't be that way. It's
Mm-mm.
obvious I'm a bishop and I'm a pastor, but I'm not Muslim. But when a Muslim person is being ostracized and they can't move a school into a city or a councilwoman, a candidate, has her life threatened, I'm jumping in saying, wait a minute, what happened to us all being one America, one Alabama? And so these are the things that are driving people to my campaign. When we had ICE being talked about at the national level, we had Alabamians who were being deported, and people were calling my campaign, and I was calling people, and my team was fighting. So I'm not bragging. I don't like doing that, but I'm just saying the reason why this black man has been successful and will win the primary, although some say at worst case a runoff and will still win the runoff, is because we've been out there, we've been fighting for everybody. I'm an Omega man, meaning I'm a Mega Psi Phi member. My wife's a Delta, so we're part of Divine Nine. I'm gonna do a Phi Beta Sigma forum tomorrow night. So I'm part of other organizations that I'll just leave unnamed tonight, but all of those organizations form concentric circles that lead people to say, you know what, I identify with Will. Just being in Walmart last week, having hot dogs in my hand and 4 cans of Chef Boyardee spaghetti, somebody said, "Now I know you're real."
Not real till you got the Chef Boyardee, that's for
Come
sure.
on, that's it.
I
So,
will say, my mind slowly started to shift because I was talking on my Facebook about another candidate, and I started getting in my comments, people start Will Boyd, Will Boyd, Will Boyd. They went as far as tagging your campaign into it, which your
oh my
campaign
goodness.
actually did respond to my post.
See,
So I
that's
was
what
like,
you get for thinking I can't win. That's what you get for writing me off.
let's go. And listen, I told her, and I told her, I was like, maybe he got something. Better I started saying it because, like, how many people were saying it? And it wasn't black people. It was white,
Yeah, it
white
was.
Alabama, a lot of white Alabamians. But then I started. Okay, so then I started doing a little deep dive, started digging.
Mhm.
So,
Yes, sir.
from my perspective, the way that you sit right now, I feel like something about you pull young white Alabamians.
Exactly. Exactly.
But another candidate, which you might have a runoff with, he pulls off the older Alabamians.
Right, right,
So,
right.
in my opinion, with your campaign and you running, it's going to come down to how do you get the older and white Alabamians to be like, okay, we got him too. Even if
Right.
they vote for the other guy or pull those votes, how do you get the older crowd? Because you got the young crowd. I've seen that. Like the young
Right. Right.
crowd, they behind you.
Right,
Mhm.
right, right, right. Well, the young crowd, I'll say a number of them are with a certain candidate, a particular candidate also who you may be referencing. And I'll say one of the candidates, it's sometimes interesting when you're running against somebody who might be a rock star, an icon, a legend, or a figure of a historical note, right? So all those wonderful things are great, what candidates have done. But what I try to tell people is this race is not about what someone has necessarily done in the past, especially when it's decades ago, but what is going to be done to help us in the future. And so I say, whenever you drive a car, if you stare at the rearview mirror too long, you're bound to run into something. I love the fact that we have people who have done great things. I honor them. I speak well of them. I call names. I say, Senator Jones, thank you for your service. When we crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge, I shook his hand as I crossed his pathway, where our pathways crossed on the other side. I said, thank you for your service, and I kept on moving. I call the other candidates. It's no secret. I've called Jamel Brown on a number of occasions.
I wonder
I
how
hope
that
the call wasn't
conversation
being
went.
recorded for quality purposes. But
Serge is like, I'd have liked to have been a fly on the wall for
Oh
that one.
man,
no, 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 no. We
that's
have a
pretty
good
good,
time. We have
Cub.
a real good time. I've called Miss Yolanda Flowers and talked, and I've called Nathan Mathis and talked to him. Chad Chick Martin, we talk almost like we're brothers, And I joke along with him and say, hey, you know what? You sure you're not an Omega Sci-Fi member? We have a good time. I believe when you have, especially in Alabama, Democrats who are willing to put their life on the line, and when I say that, I mean that literally, not just figuratively. When you're willing to say, hey, I'm willing to put my reputation and even drive the highways late at night alone, recognizing that it may be a challenge. When you have Democrats who are willing to do that, I respect them all. Now, what I don't like is whenever people just say, hey, I'm voting for her or him because of this or that or something, and they don't give anybody else a chance. I think you should look at what a person is capable of doing. And I think when you example I use, and I'll leave you alone. I think when you start buying cars based on just the emblem or the symbol on the front or back and not listening to the purring of the engine or seeing if it has an odometer that is high in terms of its numbers, its mileage, and you look at a brand new, I'll just say EV vehicle, right? Or an electric vehicle, and you don't take the time to actually say, I want to embrace something new. Just because you haven't seen it in your block doesn't mean there's something wrong with it. And I'll, on the opposite side, say, because your car with that emblem may have run well decades ago, doesn't guarantee that it's going to be fuel efficient and run today. So I think you have to do shopping. And I appreciate segments like this one where you just kind of just let me talk and you ask questions as long as you want, any question you want, because it gives your viewers an opportunity to, like car shopping, get into Carfax, see what they're buying. But when I kid you not, this week on multiple occasions, I've driven hours to a destination and only had the opportunity to speak 2 minutes or five. And so when you're buying a car, you wouldn't buy it based on a 2 minute speech, a 5 minute speech, or even what I told you a Mercedes, a Toyota, or a Lincoln did 20 years ago. You buy it based on your need right now.
Right.
So I will say, after all the political talk been going on with my Facebook and whatever, because I talk about politics a lot.
And I left Facebook
So
because I cannot deal with the stupidity anymore. And I'm saying it's stupidity. That's what it is. I'm like, I don't know how you open yourself up to all these people, like
so the
mental health wise. That I mean, it's just
Oh
not
yeah.
healthy.
You need a therapist after you scroll 2 or 3 minutes. Oh, I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
so I had someone reach out to me, someone that I value their opinion and their thoughts that's, in Huntsville, and she sent me your grassroots that you're gonna be, hey, Will Boyd's gonna be in Huntsville, da 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 da. You should come by. Since she sent it to me, I was like, okay, maybe I should consider it. And I showed up with my daughter because she had soccer practice after the time frame. Like, okay, we can just go to that, swing by, and then go to practice. I will say, when I heard you speak, you definitely caught my attention.
Mhm.
Like, I like the way you sounded, your cadence, how you were speaking, even maybe some passion in your voice, the way you said it. And I even went on my Facebook like after the day. I was like, I felt like you said a lot of things that I would hit on, like things that I would care about, and things that I would want to develop or change in Alabama. You said it a more educated way. I don't know
No,
about
no,
it.
no, 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 no. Thank you for the compliment, sir. I appreciate that.
But what really caught me though, what really gave me pause and made me have to really consider you, I will confess, is my 11-year-old daughter. Because I took her and she was sitting there on the phone playing a game, whatever. And I'm thinking, I'm standing there listening. And I saw her, she's on her phone the whole time, the kid do. I like she ain't probably bored out of her mind, not paying attention. But we left and we were walking down the sidewalk in downtown Huntsville. And she asked me, I didn't even say anything to her, what did you think about him?
Wow, really?
And I was like, I don't know, me just trying to be just generic. I'm a not,
Right.
I like the way I like the way he said some certain things. He was somebody that I would consider. I need to do more research about him. That's why I said to her, I need to do more research. She says, I liked him. I would vote for him.
Wow.
She said when he talked about hospitals, his voice got louder, like he was angry. I
I
like
was.
that. So for my 11-year-old to
Mhm.
pick up on
Wow.
something and for you to like touch something in her that made her retro like, I like the way he speaks.
I love that.
To
Wow.
me, it's like I gotta consider that. Like my 11-year-old daughter caught something from you that sparked
Wow.
something in her that had to make her say, I like that guy.
Well, you tell that future governor in your house, your daughter, that I appreciate that compliment and that's encouraging. That helps me out a whole lot today. Thank you. Thank
You
you.
know,
Thank
our
you.
kids are, I have an 11-year-old also, daughter, and they're like watching and listening. And you try to like not talk about too many politic things in front of them or to them because their brains are only so developed to handle so much. But growing up in the South, you're just like almost, I hate to use the word brainwashed, but kind of brainwashed to think like, okay, we have to vote this way because we're Christians and we're conservative. And why are we conservative? Oh,
Mm,
because the Bible tells us we're conservative. And you're like, well, the Bible says thing. Okay, so as you get older, you start questioning, like, well, I don't know if the Bible really says that.
mm-hmm,
And so it's almost like a deconstruction once you get older of like, you know what? I don't have to vote Republican because
mm-hmm,
I'm a Christian and there's
mm-hmm,
certain things that maybe I'm a little more conservative about.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so I'm really trying to like show, and so is Serge, but obviously we have different circumstances, but progressivism, because it doesn't have to be like, oh, you're a Democrat. It's just like you want to move forward instead of
Absolutely.
backwards. And so
Absolutely.
I'm really trying to teach that, not as much politics, but like we want to do things that move us forward and not going backwards
Absolutely.
in how we run things here, how we run things on a federal level, on how we treat people,
Absolutely.
and that kind of stuff. So they are listening and watching, and
Hmm.
that's really cool that she said
Yeah,
that.
I thought
I
so.
love that.
Absolutely.
I was
Yeah.
impressed by it. Like, man, that's a good question and a good like
Hmm.
comment from her.
See,
Yeah.
those are the ones that stun us, and we're like, wait a minute now. You
Hmm.
know, when you were talking, I was thinking about a story that I heard probably 20 years ago about, and you probably heard it, a woman who would purchase a piece of meat, and I'll just say she'd cut off a significant portion of it, and then she'd put it in the oven. And she did that every, I'll just say Thanksgiving, a piece of ham, just cut off a significant part of it. And finally, her husband asked, why do you cut off so much of the ham? And she said, I don't know, because my mother did it. And so they go back to mom and say, Mom, why do you cut off so much of the ham? And she says, you know what? I don't know, baby. My mama did it. And before they knew it, they're back at the great grandmother. And they asked the great grandmother, why did you cut off so much of the ham? And she said, baby, I did it because my oven was too small. So all of these years, look at what has been missed out because they've been doing something one way, thinking it was the right way, not knowing the real reason why they did it. So you all bring up awesome points in that. For years, we've been told in order to, yes, uh, be a good this or that, you have to go this way, left or right. But I think people are starting to think individually. And I'm even seeing, I told you I have two in college, but I also have to identify with you too. I have always say, I call her, and she might hear me right now, but a 12-year-old going on 22. So I get it. I get it. But I realize even at their ages, they have different values and beliefs. I'm not saying they're not being trained up well. I'm just saying their priorities are not necessarily the same as mine.
Right.
And so I have to embrace that. They're very good children, do very well in school, but I'm equating that to politics to say I hate when we demonize people for believing what they do. You don't know why a person's Republican. You don't know why a person's an independent. You don't know why they're a Democrat unless they tell you. But just because they make that choice, they shouldn't call me a Demorat or because I'm going this direction or a demon, whatever.
I
When in
think
reality, I
too a big
baptized a lot of people and officiated a lot of weddings. So I'm not that type of person.
I think a lot of the problem, like with the older generations, even like my parents' age, you know, I've had conversations with my dad that rarely end how I want them to, but
Mhm.
we have decided like we're still going to love each other, and we're not going to let politics
Hmm.
whatever, which is better than a lot of people's situations are.
Hmm.
But he can say, well, like, yeah, I don't think this candidate's good at all. Like, I won't name any names. Like, I think he's not a good person at all, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, okay, well, what about I'm not voting for a Democrat. You're crazy. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so why? Because they could do this and that. I'm like, okay, well, we know what this guy's capable of, or woman,
Hmm.
whatever, but like,
Hmm.
you would let your fear of the unknown trump your, like,
No pun intended.
no pun intended, what could be, how awesome it could be, how much better things could be strictly because of a party affiliation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that is one of the most like frustrating, infuriating things about a two-party system that I'm like, okay, well, yeah, keep voting the way you've been voting. That's going real well. Like
Hmm.
we're
Hmm.
really thriving based
Hmm.
on those kind of
Hmm.
votes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just because people don't think they have permission to do
Right.
something different than what they've always done.
Right, right. It's tough, and I've seen where a lot of spouses now are going in different directions. People who live in the same household
I
may
could
have different
never.
beliefs, and so it's changing. Never,
I
never.
could never. No, that's a no, that's a no deal for me. Like,
Yeah, no, I'm really seeing where people have different political ideas, but they're willing to talk about it in a positive way, and
mm,
I think that's the way we have to be open-minded. As I
mhm,
said earlier, there may be a reason why someone leans in one direction or another, and I could open up a big can of worms, in this interview right now by just talking about the issue of life versus choice. Some people may have been in a situation where they were raped, where incest was at play, where they had a child that did not make it to term, or spinal bifida, or whatever it may be. You have a lot of things that affect that why a person has their opinion about whether or not they believe in what we call abortion or not. You have people who instantaneously categorize and say, well, if you're left, you believe this. If you're right, you believe that. No, you have some people who have different ideas. A
mhm.
party may believe something, but you may not. A party may support something, may not. You find that different parties in Alabama and different states from county to county may have totally different ideas. I find again, opening up discussion here about young people, I can spend all day saying it's all about the economy, healthcare, and the community. And I'll walk into a group of 18 to 29-year-olds, and the number one issue is the environment. They can care less about, what you want to say about the community and police force, and whether or not ICE is there. They want to know how their environment is going to be protected. And so I've gone into even unions and explained that the way that you came into the union and what was important to you is not necessarily important to your incoming members. And unless you adapt, you're going to see your organization begin to become extinct. And so I think we all have to adapt, even coming back to the family. Thanksgivings, let's face it, over the last few years have been a hard fight for a lot of people because of
Yeah.
their differences. But when you come to the table and say, let's agree on some things first. I do it with gun control, and I won't go into that discussion now unless you leave me there. But I start with what we agree on first, and then I work my way out to the extremities. And usually when we get to the first 2 points, we're already on the same page and we're heading the same direction. So that's what I think I uniquely bring to the table. You get a Tommy Tuberville, and I'm going to take a shot. He's told us he's going for one half of the state, people that have an R behind their names. I'm telling you, once I take the oath, it's not about me ceasing to be a Democrat. It's the fact that I'm for all of Alabama. I work for
Everybody,
the Republicans just as
whether
hard
they
as
voted for
Democrats.
you or not. Right.
Yes, yes,
Well,
ma'am.
that's every single elected office.
Correct, correct.
And how we came so far from that is just it's just mind-blowing to me.
Well, you got a good segue, so just hit some policy things because
Mhm.
your first one, like I said, the one my daughter caught up on was the healthcare. And I know when I heard you speak, you were speaking about some of the rural areas, especially like in the Black Belt, only
Yes,
have
sir.
one hospital, maybe don't even have a single hospital in the county. And I know with a lot of the federal bills that came out recently, Alabama's been struggling with rural healthcare.
Hmm.
What's your idea or thoughts on how to improve Alabama's like, healthcare system in the rural and poorer areas of the state?
The biggest thing we can do is expand Medicaid. I mentioned a number over and over and over. 282,696 people in Alabama would have health care if we simply expanded Medicaid. You might say, well, what does that involve? It involves a $228 million investment, roughly speaking. Could be a little higher, could be a little lower. Because we have what is called Obamacare paying 90%, or the Affordable Care Act kicking in 90%, it leaves us with 22.8 million. But let's just say Obamacare is not going to help us. And in 2027, I'm going to be leading the state with no help from the federal government. Let's just say it's 228 million. We're pushing out. The return is 394 million. So if somebody walks up and says, "Hey, I'm gonna give you uh, 22 million or $22 in exchange for me get, 390 something dollars. If you don't take that offer, that's ridiculous. That's what we're doing right now. But that's not the end of it. $22 million dollars gets us a $394 million return. It gets us $2 billion in new revenues every year. It gets us 200,000 new jobs, primarily in healthcare. It stops the closure of more than 25 hospitals, which, by the way, are failing because of the high cost of what we call uncompensated care. When you have a high number of uninsured people in a state trying to get help, especially during a critical care, acute care, needing to get into a triage unit or whatever it may be, it's costing somebody. Somebody's eating that cost. And so Alabama hospitals, without having any way for that to be paid, are suffering. We have over 25% of our hospitals operating in the red. Think about that for a second. In 2026, we have over 25% of our hospitals operating in the red, over 25 about to close. So if we expanded Medicaid, it could work. Now, somebody usually follows up and say, well, wait a minute. What if, Will, there's not a blue wave? And let's just say you skate by, you beat Senator Tuberville, and you become governor, and you have this red state or a legislature that's mainly Republican. Can you still do it? Absolutely. If you look at Georgia, Republican Governor Brian Kemp partially expanded Medicaid, and we saw a great improvement. They have some hiccups, they have some things they have to work out, some kinks in the system, but for the most part, it's helping people. Even if we started in that direction, and there are other options. Blue Cross and Blue Shield has proposed ways to do something similar, but there are ways that we can creatively move our state forward. What troubles me right now is if I jumped in my car and headed towards Mobile, you would be surprised how many counties I run through that do not have a hospital, do not have a federally qualified healthcare center, may not even have a nurse practitioner sitting in a mobile home or a trailer, as we call it, a double wide, nowhere. So you have Pickens County that I talk about all the time, where you have to drive to Mississippi or
Right.
Tuscaloosa, an hour either way. Hale County, you are waiting on either of two ambulances to come, particularly if you're in Moundville area, to get you, and one might be on its way to Tuscaloosa with a dialysis patient. You can't have atrial fibrillation, a stroke. You can't have a cardiac event and live if a hospital can't be reached in an hour or an ambulance can't even come your way for two. That is bad. And so I can go on and on and on, but
Right.
Medicaid expansion solves that problem. So you might say, well, okay, why didn't we do it? $22.8 million would solve our problem. Blue Cross and Blue Shield is offering a solution. Whether you want to go in that direction or not, why haven't we done that? Every time we ask the question, I was near the governor's office today. I was on the steps of where the governor's office is today. But every time we ask the question, we never get a response from the state as to why we haven't done that. Pause for a minute. We are living like we're in the 1800s and it's 2026.
Amen.
You ain't lying.
We are we are we are spending millions of dollars not on 10 rockets, not on, I'll make it very specific. We are spending millions of dollars on one missile that knocks down one Iranian rocket that costs only 35,000. Tell me what kind of return on investment that is. Now, I'm all for national security. I believe in a multilateral approach to foreign policy. And yes, we become the big brother, big sister all the time. We're the peacekeeper of the world. I get all that. We probably have more money invested, GDP relative to the military, all that kind of stuff. But listen, how is it that you can spend billions overseas, but we have counties in Alabama where people are dying because buildings are closed and hospital doors won't open up? That is a shame.
Or on new prisons
Uh-oh.
that aren't housing any more
Going there.
people for people that don't even need to still be in prison. And we're even robbing from the education fund for
Uh-oh.
it.
Uh-oh.
Because,
Uh-oh.
we got so much to give. out of the education
So
funds.
transition education.
Sure.
Now
Can
we're
I
there.
can I hit the prison too though? Can I hit the
We
prison?
gonna get there too.
Yeah, I mean,
Education, the educational lottery is the best thing for Alabama. So you heard what I just said about missiles, right? If we had educational equity in Alabama, we could actually see where students in the Black Belt get as good of an education as students in Mountain Brook, in Hoover, in Shelby County,
in
Jefferson County,
Madison.
in
Yeah.
Madison County. All right. Great point. Right now, we have the number one pre-K in the nation, but only 40% of our kids enjoy it. Why in the world would we not make sure that 100% of our kids, 1 to 4, when the brain is being developed fastest, I'll just say it that way, why not at that formidable time of their lives make sure they're on sure footing? If you're building a building, you spend a lot of time making sure the soil is right. You're doing soil samples, you're preparing excavation. You want to make sure your foundation's right. We're not making sure the foundation is right in Alabama. So then when we get these reading and math scores and we're 47, 48, 49, it's like, oh, why? What happened? Reading and math is all probably because we didn't start at the beginning and make sure everybody had equal footing.
Right.
And then when we have, come on, you said it, I'll just make it up a different word, educational slush fund instead of the educational trust fund. Yeah, you are robbing from your own kids. But an educational lottery would bring us 800 million to $1 billion.
Hmm.
Right now, today, here's a problem, Serge. We in Alabama, whether we like gambling or not, whether we are conservative Christians or not, we are taking care of the education of kids in Tennessee, Mississippi, Georgia, and Florida. They are going to college on the money that Alabamians are taking across the line. Why not keep that money here and educate our kids? Make sure their opportunities all the way through from kindergarten, pre-K, kindergarten, K through 12, even into college or or organized labor. When we start thinking about this, big problem in Alabama with education being nearly the solution to everything, I think our problems go away.
Well, we always used to say as Alabamians, at least we're not Mississippi. And we can't even say that anymore.
You
Mississippi got a
cannot.
better education system than we got. They were
They
way
went
ahead of
right
us.
up. They
But
did.
I'll be honest, I took my child out of the public school system a couple years ago and put her in private school. I'm from Athens. We graduated together from Athens. I went there my whole life. We sure didn't have any kind of money for a private school. Um, if you'd asked me if like would I ever consider that, I would have said absolutely not. But especially after COVID, the they changed the standard to which they judged like where a kid was, and they've started focusing so much on the testing, which really just reflects back on the school system and how much money the school system gets and not actually where the kid is. And we had no grades, and she was in third grade. We had no grades. She would take a spelling test on a Friday, never see the thing again. How'd you do? I don't know, it doesn't matter, we got spell check anyway.
Oh my goodness.
And I
Oh
was
my.
like, I've got to do something different.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like if it had been me as a kid, I was like, I was a self-starter. I'm like, I would have pestered a teacher to death until she gave me a graded paperback. She's like, I don't care. I just want to play sports. So, you've got a different style of learning. I had to do something. Well, now you're getting this Choose Act that's going into effect. And would it be cool like to not have to pay for private school? Sure, but I knew what I was signing up for.
Mhm.
And in the meantime, like, okay, well, I'm not even sure $7,000 per kid is getting put into the public school system because they're putting it everywhere else. But
Mhm.
now you're saying that 7,000 per kid is going to be put into private schools to make them nicer and better when they
Mhm.
were already nicer
Mhm.
and better than. And it's
Exactly.
like I'm very conflicted because even though my child goes to private school, I still love the public school system. Like
Right.
our state, our country depends on that.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it's just devastating
I, d-
how
I have personally felt like we're stripping away from public schools to provide for charter and private schools, and that's only going to hurt the kids that
Hmm.
need that free public education. Like I said, my
Hmm.
kid, I got
Hmm.
two kids; they're both in go to public, high school and middle school.
Hmm.
So we're taking money out of these education funds for everything else.
literally everything
Yeah,
else.
that's just going to hurt the kids that's going to school.
And even in Tuberville, I'll say, I mean, I don't care. He, when you ask him where he's going to get money for some of this stuff, he doesn't even hide it.
Pulling from the
Yeah,
education
yeah.
I'm
fund.
pulling from the education
He
fund.
said a
See,
couple times.
We don't need no education here, like
and that explains why we are and why we don't know three branches of government. I'm sorry, you need to edit that out. But
about no, we're not editing that out. We are keeping it all day long.
yeah. So you brought up some excellent points. And let me just say this. I have people around me, very close to me, who are doing exactly what you're doing, and you're right. COVID changed a lot. Uh, you want to look at educational outcomes. You want to make sure that your kids are going to succeed, and you don't want them in a failing school. I get it. I get it. And so I have no problems with people saying I want to put my kid in a private school, but as just pointed out, the problem is when you take money that is really restricted to or should be going to public education and it's going to someone who does not need it.
Right.
That is what has caused schools not to succeed and do well. Now, think about this. You equalize all of that with the educational lottery. When you talk about, again, $1 billion coming into the school system of Alabama, that changes everything. It changes everything. Everybody gets an equal opportunity. If you want to do this with your kid, you can. Do that with your kid, you can. Money is there for everybody, and that's the problem we have right now. That we need to stop taking away from the money that we should be using to educate our kids, get them the skill set they need, make them more competitive in the workforce. And I have a bigger goal as it relates to education. I have a problem that I go into a lot of these counties, and I want to start rolling them off. And because of their industries, let's just say walking into a county where there were previously a textile industry, and let's just say that industry is gone, or paper mill
Right.
is no longer there. Um, People have kids that they're raising and they're going to the public schools, but they know once their kid gets that high school diploma, they're gone. Every county should be able to have their kids to be educated there, and if they so choose, be able to stay there. So on a larger scale, I think this is where my rapid bus transit system comes in to move people in between the different cities of the counties to get people to healthcare locations. But the bigger issue being addressed transportation wise, commute time, is having high speed rail. So I want to see high speed rail down the corridors of the interstates so that a person may say, you know what, I don't want to leave Fayette or Franklin County. Uh, I mentioned Pickens County earlier. There's a county that I was in just a few weeks ago where there are only 27 people per square mile. 27 per square mile. And so when you think about that versus, let's just say, a Jefferson County where you can just go turn around in a circle and you see 27 people. It's a whole lot different. So you say, well, they don't need as much attention. There should be equity in every city, every county for people to succeed.
For sure.
So keep talking about the education fund and pulling money. We prison reform is one of those. We're building a super prison. One of them is estimated at 1.3 billion, and of course, Ivy pulled from education. She pulled from COVID funds to try
Hmm.
to build this one prison for
One prison.
1.3, and we're building three. Three is planned.
Three, three,
Uh,
three.
and
1.3 billion on cages versus our children. Think about that for a minute. What are we saying? That's a pipeline to prison. And
that
may I inject this? That you said it earlier. How many thousands of people will go into that prison? You said it. You said the number. You said 4,000.
did
So
we?
Oh, I don't know.
4,000 people are going into that new prison, right? Would you like to guess how many people are in the Alabama prison system right now? Department of Corrections?
Ain't no telling.
I mean, I know. I
Oh,
mean, it's ridiculous, and it's
over 20,000. let's closer to 27,000.
So I'm sure you know the answer to this. What would that number go to if we decriminalized marijuana?
Oh, see, now I thank you for taking me into this realm because now I can talk to you about the fact that I'm introducing a PTSD program. And that's not for post-traumatic stress disorder. And I know in the prison system they use PICS now, where they have a post-incarcerated syndrome. But as it relates to my plan, I want to make sure that people who are over 55 don't have a violent crime uh, on their record, and they're trying to work towards rehabilitation, educating themselves, etc. I would love them to be in a place where they can be presumptively pardoned. That's the P. The T is there needs to be a cap on technical violations. That's where we come in with the marijuana issue and others. I'm not saying marijuana is a technical issue, but I'm saying a lot of people are there for technical reasons,
Right.
not paying a bill, missing an appointment, whatever. You want to put a cap on that. The PTS part is within 60 days of a person being eligible for parole, they need to have a hearing. Within 7 days of that hearing, they need an answer, whether they were accepted, approved, or denied. They need a second look by an outside agency to tell why they're denied and what they can do to fix that so they get accepted next time or approved. And then lastly, the D is the dashboard, where the whole state, day 365 of me being in the office of governor, people can see where the incarcerated inmates are. They can see exactly which institutions are offering which mental health wraparound services, which one have educational services. But just doing something along the lines of what you mentioned earlier, what you asked about, you could see an increase of about $300 million to the state of Alabama over a period of 3 years.
Wow.
300 million. If the people who are there for those reasons are set free. Now, think about this for just a minute. We have people that are behind bars for things that we say are illegal here in Alabama, but they're not illegal in other states. But let me take it a step further. At the federal level, there are four different things that get categorized, so to speak, as a violent crime. I'm not going to ask you the question. I'll just tell you the answer. But in Alabama, there are over 50 different reasons you can be considered somebody who's considered or committed a violent crime. That right there tells you it's a pipeline to prison. We are quickly becoming the incarceration capital of the world. And so when people say, again, I went to a hearing today, but we're looking at what these new facilities look like. And when you only have 4,000 new beds, and a large percentage may be dialysis patients, or you have so many set aside for those who are struggling with mental health. You already see that whether you're minimum, medium, I'm not going to include maximum, but minimum, medium, you might not even have too much of a shot to get into a new prison. And we have these dilapidated prisons. I don't want to I don't want to have your listeners in tears, but if you heard what's going on in the prison system in Alabama, if you haven't watched the Alabama Solution, watch it.
We both did.
So I
Okay.
will say one line that, see, and my mind was already going there because that put, I think, Alabama on the spotlight. But there's
In a terrible way, but I think hopefully for good eventually.
there's one line a guy said in the documentary. He says, Nothing in Alabama has ever changed without the federal government getting into it." He said from chattel slavery, civil rights, prison system, it took the federal government stepping into Alabama for anything out in Alabama to change. I like, dang, he's right. Like
It
that
is.
was
It
a
is.
line.
Why can't we just
It
act
is.
right because it's the right thing to do?
It is. It is. It is. Yeah. It is sad. You mentioned earlier about gerrymandering, and I'm going to jump back for just a second. We only have 27% of our population uh, representing as or identifying as African American, but you have a very high percentage of people who are incarcerated, people of color. So there's a disproportionate amount. But you're mentioning the gerrymandering. Think about the fact that it was ruled by SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, that our lines were not properly drawn. And even when it was kicked back to Alabama, Alabama just said, okay, we're not going to do anything about it. I mean, so many words. So you see that there is a lack of interest in getting it right in some cases. And so I think voters should really think about that. If you are someone who's concerned about fairness and equity, If you're somebody who's concerned about doing things by the book, if you're a law and order individual, how do you justify somebody saying, you know what? We're just going to do it our way. We're going to run this the way we want to. So I'll be one of the first to tell you what we're seeing with Alabama Department of Correction looks like a criminal type of operation. And so I'll get in trouble with some people for saying that, but it needs to be completely overhauled. And day one, I'm calling for an independent audit. And there will be some people who are going to have to leave and vacate their seats. And we're going to have to get safety, things stabilized. People need mental health services. They need to be treated from a health perspective. Today, one of the things being talked about was even who is handling the health for people in prison. Right now, we seem to be in between. We went from one contract now to another contract. You have to ask yourself, even if people deserve to be there, and I know that's strong language. Some people have done some crimes of moral turpitude, and they deserve to be there. What about all the people who don't? What
Well, and
about the
even if
families that I sit
someone,
with that don't?
even if someone does deserve to be there, do they deserve to be there forever?
They do not. They do.
And,
Well,
and
let me
well,
say this.
some do.
There are some I publicly say when there's some things that you do, yeah, that life in prison is about all you can
Correct.
handle because you get out, you're going to do the same thing. Right now, we're looking at a recidivism rate of about 1 in 3. So for every 3 that gets out, one is going back real quick.
Right.
That's not now. Some would argue that's tremendous progress. But think about that from a rehabilitation perspective. For every 3 incarcerated citizens that get out who are not rehabilitated, they're going right back. That could be a crime. That could be something that affects you, your neighborhood. So we have to be fair to officers. The officer incarcerated citizen rate is not where it's supposed to be. So you have officers who need to be safe and they're not. You have perhaps some corruption going on. So you have to ask yourself, how are drugs getting into the prison system? How are some of these things that should not be there, contraband or whatever it may be? How are people dying behind bars if you have people watching? And so people are dying in the system every day. Well, I shouldn't say every day, but in reality, there are a lot of people dying in Alabama prisons. On a day-to-day basis, there are problems that lead to people's deaths, whether that's health-related issues or other things. We need a total overhaul of the Alabama Department of Corrections. And I don't mind saying that. I will argue with anybody any day face to face.
Right.
So I know you have spoken about infrastructure in Alabama, especially like in the Black Belt area, and that could also be a reason why people end up in jail system, prison systems. The lack of opportunities to just say that. I remember years ago, it was a documentary HBO, and they said that the UN had said that parts of Alabama was third world country worthy. Because they had sewage on the grounds and things of that
And it
nature.
still is part some
Lowndes
part.
County,
Yeah.
Lowndes County.
And because I always say, we live here in North Alabama. We're surrounded with Huntsville. That's that growth up here. And like we live in a bubble up here. And I think a lot of people north of Birmingham, maybe, they don't recognize how bad the rest of Alabama is. 'Cause a lot of times people have these Alabama perceptions. I always say, you have North Alabama, then it's the
Hmm.
rest of Alabama. I
You
like when
know,
you think about Alabama, you think about the rest of Alabama.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh
well,
yeah,
They are cousins.
I think
oh
even
yeah.
growing up here, even when Athens was small, we still had no idea what the rest was like. And it
Oh yeah.
wasn't until I went to college and would go home with friends for the weekend from different places or go here and pass through. And I know exactly some of those counties you mentioned. And it's just devastating
Yeah.
that people still live like that. And you get so many cruel, hateful, well, they could do better for themselves. And I'm like, that's your white privilege talking because some people have no options but what they have in front of them. But it's 2026, nobody should be getting left behind like that.
Nobody, nobody, nobody.
Like, those are basic human rights
They are, and
because
and
this
we
isn't
have.
a third world country.
It's not a third world country, and people are sadly living that way. And you've mentioned Athens a few times, Limestone County is dealing with the problem of the growth is coming at such a rate that I think we could talk about the sewage or handling of septic issues, right? A lot of places are challenged, even Huntsville. You have such a high level of growth again that some argue the infrastructure is you don't have enough roads
Right.
to
Well,
handle the
that's how
people
this
coming and going.
podcast was born. We kind of talked about our mayoral campaign and tried to interview all the candidates. We didn't have a whole lot of cooperation, but we learned a lot along the way, and we were able to inform a lot of other people about some stuff going on. And
Thank
we
you.
that's kind of what we realized was like people. I think people our age want change,
They do. They
but they
do.
don't really know what all needs to be changed or what problems really are out there because they're just not informed and don't know how to get informed.
Right. So let me give you, and I hate to use North Alabama, NA, and LA, not Los Angeles, but Lower Alabama. But if I could leave North Alabama, let's leave Huntsville for just a minute, where you're always going to see construction on the highways and the interstates, which I still think is a good thing, right? You're growing. You're going to see buildings going up. You're going to see dirt everywhere. Your car, by the time you leave the car wash and get home, stuff may be on the tires because you've gone through a construct. That's good. A good thing. It's positive. But let me carry you to Selma,
Okay.
where we every year have a bridge crossing, and people come from all over the world and nation. Dignitaries come from DC, governors pop in, members of Congress, the House and Senate pop in, presidents come in, vice presidents come in, right? And even with all of that, we have no broadband covering certain parts of certain counties. Selma, I can drive in with navigation and lose it in a second. I was on a phone call with a multimillionaire and the call dropped 4 times before I could leave near where the bridge is and get at least out of the city.
Hmm.
And so think about that for a second. What business owner, let me go a little further. I can show you videos right now where there is asphalt where you can look at a crevice that's at least 12 inches deep. The road is like broken about to fall off, just slide away. I could take you to areas of Alabama, and I was gonna call a name, but I won't, where you'll see that there are people still living like it's the 1800s for real.
Right.
Uh, it's sad. It's sad. Now, I'm hopeful because I keep saying we can fix all of that. I'm gonna go a step further, and I'm gonna come back. African Americans are behind their counterparts by 500 years in terms of wealth. It is not because somebody just said, I hate people of color, or somebody just said, we're gonna make sure that people of color never see that. You know what it is? It's just bad policies.
Right.
And bad policies can be fixed overnight. My first year in office, and we can close a 500-year gap right away. So I ask you the question again, why is that? If we have all of this money available to us, there is American Rescue Plan Act money that has been coming our way. You mentioned COVID money that came our way. And we knew we had cracked roads. We knew we had in Lowndes County sewage crisis issues with 25,000 people facing problems across our state in similar manner. If we knew that in Lafayette, the water's coming out of pipes black like coffee with no cream, if we knew that the trunk for broadband is there, but the end of the line has not been completed. So kids in the lower part of Alabama have to go to McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's just to get on the internet to do their homework because they're not carrying books home. They're carrying Chromebooks now, and they can't even get to the internet. Ask yourself, why do we allow policies to exist or put people in office who won't even change it? That's what I can't wrap my mind around right now.
Right.
Why we keep thinking, and we call it asinine, and people have another term they try to pull into psychology and say it's something else because you're doing the same thing expecting a different result. But why do we expect for things to change? Going back to the question you asked me earlier in the conversation, Serge, when we want to put the same people in office and they've not demonstrated that they have any compassion and want to change our state.
You can
That's why
change
I'm
the Gulf of
hopeful.
Mexico, though.
I think one answer to that question, and it doesn't mean I like it, but there's a huge problem that where people, if it's not directly affecting them,
There you go.
don't care.
You're right.
You know, and then people want to say, well, like, there's enough stress in the world without me having to think about people who don't have electricity or I mean, like that's terrible, but we've got enough to worry about here.
Yep. You're right. You're right. I saw that with the opioid crisis in 2015. In 2015, we saw where very few people were concerned about it. And just like you said, people said, well, it's not bothering me. But do you know in 2015, there were 5.8 people, 5.8 million people in Alabama, but 5.8 million, I'll just say scripts or prescriptions were given out, written, written. That's enough for every man, woman, boy, and girl. You have to ask yourself, wait a minute, what happened? What happened? And so now we're on the other end looking at fentanyl and all of these other challenges that are facing us, but we caused some of these problems. We have to own it. You know, if mental health deserves, I call it mental parity with traditional health. If we need to put more dollars in there, and we do, in mental health, put it there. If we need more in suicide prevention, and we need it, put it there. If we need more behavioral units, if we need more places for veterans to go to get help, treatment centers, put them in every county. We have, not trying to ramble, and you might argue I already have, but 300,000 people who put on uniform in Alabama, 300, 300 veterans sleep someplace every night outside of a home. That's under a bridge. That's in somebody's car. 300 people who fought for our country, discharged,
Right.
are right now living homeless in Alabama. That is not anything that should be. We can fix all of that immediately.
Right.
And to your point, when you're just driving to Montgomery and you're within a block's radius of the state house, and by the way, they're building brand new buildings, parking garages, and I'm using the term ivory white buildings that look pristine and clean. And then you drive a few blocks away down any given street, dilapidated buildings, ply, plywood on building. Think about Selma, Alabama. Everybody marches into the Edmund Pettus Bridge and they crowd
Right.
around. But do you all know that buildings that were there last bridge crossing were boarded up this time? People were shot the night before the bridge crossing on Sunday. It's out of hand, but we can fix all that.
Yeah.
Well, I won't keep too much of your time. I know you're a busy man, got family to get to and other obligations. So I just got one final question for you. Why you in a red state? What would make someone say, I'm gonna vote for Will Boyd, who's maybe either Democrat or maybe even a Republican, that say I would never vote for a Dem?
Hmm.
Why you
Because
here?
there's a thing going on nationally, as you know, that people are starting to like maybe kind of see the light. Like, I think about Texas and they've got that race going on there. And
Hmm.
you know, the people that are like, I voted Democrat for the first time in my life
Hmm.
because they're just sick of all the crap, I will
Hmm.
say.
Hmm.
Um,
Let me go eat my dinner right quick. I'm sorry.
no, I think
I'm
that
just kidding.
this is the time where if people are going to veer from their what they voted for normally because they're sick of like what that's become,
Hmm. Hmm.
what would you say to them? I mean, specific like not just Republican people that normally vote Republican, but just in general, but especially people who historically vote Republican.
I would say things are tough everywhere. And I know for some, out of sight, out of mind does exist, but for the most part, people are struggling to pay their bills. Income is low in some cases. You're seeing where healthcare is unaffordable, it's not accessible, and it's not always exceptional. You're seeing where communities are not safe in some cases from an environmental point of view, and even from a point of view that there are concerns about data centers coming in and what they're going to do to them on the technological side. But I have a solution that's going to help expand our economy, bring in more high-paying jobs, help people to get more jobs that are going to provide them the money they need to not only increase household income, but allow them to afford a home, to
Mhm.
live an American dream like their parents lived. I would also tell them that healthcare is vital, it's important. There is a plan that I have in motion right now that will make sure that everyone has exceptional health care and it won't hurt your pocketbook at the same time. And then when we look at the community and all the things I want to do, we've talked about a lot tonight, broadband, all the way to the Alabama Department of Corrections, and even victims and how we communicate with them verbally and in writing. When we have a strong community of Republicans, Independents, and Democrats, they have strong hospitals where they can not only be strong and cohesive family units, but now healthy people who can go to work. We can have a healthy workforce where our economy can turn around Alabama, and we cannot see days any longer where I call us a welfare state. For every $1 we give the federal government, we want four back. Our very biodiverse state in just 1 year can be turned around in such a way that we lead the South. By 2028, I can promise you, whether we have a Republican legislature or a Democratic legislature, I can promise you we'll have $3.3 billion of new revenues. That means your kids have an equal opportunity to succeed. Your kids are going to get a job in the communities that they reside if they want one. You can count on commutes that are getting shorter. You can count on, though your $100 yesterday feels like 80 today, in Alabama, it's going to be in reverse. You'll be able to buy more and do more. So that's what I offer Alabamians. I talk about cost. I talk about dollars and cents. I talk about issues that relate to the pocketbook and the kitchen table. And when I do that, leaving all the hot button issues out, people come to the same conclusion. I may not have voted for a Democrat before, but I will
Yeah.
because I believe that you will give Alabama an opportunity to succeed. So that's the pitch I give them. And every time I share my ideas, people who did not want to vote Democrat come back and say, you know what? I'm going to vote for you. Now, I don't know if that means they're going to vote for me in the primary. I doubt very seriously. A lot of people are going to pull a Democratic ballot because you still have Republican people on their ballots. They want to see U.S. senators, commissioners, what have you. Let them do what they do. But when it comes down to the general election, I believe we're going to see a massive change in Alabama, and it's going to be exciting. It's going to excite the whole country, and then we'll start to see that fairness, that decency come back to politics as it should be. But most importantly, we're going to see Alabama succeed and do well.
Well, definitely could continue this for a while longer
Yeah, we
if
could.
we wanted to. It was a great conversation. Glad you took the time and talk to us. And I
Yes,
think
sir.
it was well informative.
Very.
Well, you're kind. I would stay here as long as you like. My stomach is probably grumbling so loud you can hear it through the microphone.
No.
But no, no. I'm excited, and I just want to say thank you for your podcast. I know you've interviewed other gubernatorial candidates, and I appreciate your fairness and being balanced and just giving us all an opportunity just to share what we believe. So I just wanted to say thank you to you too, and keep going, keep moving
Well, we're
forward.
not letting Tommy on. We're not being totally fair because I told him like
Well, I didn't mean him. No, I'm just
not
kidding.
that he would say yes anyway, but like I said, I can only control myself so much.
No, no, no. You can do it. I think you should ask him and see. I'm one of those people that,
He don't
just
answer questions. He don't answer questions.
Your first question is going to be, "Where are you from?" You fail.
where do you live?
You're out.
Where's your home?
Get out of
Uh,
here.
All right, Dr. Boyd. Well, thank
yeah.
you for being on again. It was nice talking to you, man. You
Oh,
have a
thank you both.
great
Thank
evening.
you.
You'll have a
Bye-bye.
wonderful evening. Appreciate you.